Australia too. We're talking politics now with our politicians, Ed Husic, Labor Member of Parliament, Josh Frydenberg, Liberal Member of Parliament. Morning to you both.
Morning. G'day, Josh.
Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning. Right, well, that's it. We're out of time. So much
I think that's good.
About.
We covered a lot of good ground.
We did. We did that whole friendly thing.
Yeah.
So much to talk about. Let's start with Craig Thomson. He's come out on the weekend, Ed, and clearly he is foreshadowing what he's going to address Parliament with. He is trying to win in the court of public opinion and is suggesting that he has basically been hung out to dry by some cunning individual or individuals who snuck into his house, took his wallet, we know the whole thing, took the card, went out, pretended they were him, bought prostitutes, went back to his house, put the card back in his wallet, and then went about their other evil deeds, presumably. Do you buy that story?
Well, ultimately, it's not about me buying the story. It's not about you. I mean, you'll have your own views, obviously. Yeah. It's ultimately about, when these matters either go to a civil or criminal trial, that, someone basically will review the facts and make a decision. It's too easy, and especially in this day and age, everyone wants to make judgment. Ultimately, you're accountable for your actions, and he'll have his.
Well, I want you to make judgment now, just personally. I don't expect you to say.
You didn't even put the gavel on the table.
I didn't expect you to say he's guilty because I know he's guilty. I just want you to say he's guilty because I think he's guilty.
Oh, is that the way? Okay. See, I should have got those instructions on the way in.
I know. I'm sorry. We've let you down. But seriously, that is the story he's expecting people to believe. I mean, do you swallow it?
But again, it's not me.
You're not prepared to say what you think. I know
it's not my job to be able to... Because this is where we're at the moment, where Parliament is almost become like a star chamber instead of a parliamentary chamber, where people are supposed to just make a decision about whether or not a person sits...
I think this is a different case.
Where a person sits, whether or not they're actually... And we've covered this previously.
We have, but I think Craig Thomson's in a different position. I'll tell you why in a minute. I'll just see if Josh is prepared to answer that question. Do you buy that, that very complicated set of scenarios that had to take place?
Look, I share Paul House's view, a union leader who says it doesn't pass the believability test, or even Kathy Jackson, who says this shows that Craig Thomson lives on a parallel universe. And in fact, Paul, this morning you've got a Labor elder in Peter Beattie saying if Craig Thomson doesn't provide a better explanation than he did on the weekend, he shouldn't sit in Parliament. I mean, these are the Labor leaders who are speaking out. You don't have to rely on the coalition's words for it.
To be fair, I think it's a spectacular... It's a spectacular answer. You go through an 1,100-page report and you've got to come up with something. The reason I think, Ed, that Craig is in a different situation from Peter Slipper and so many other people about whom allegations swirl, is that there was a 3-year taxpayer-funded investigation by Fair Work Australia. They heard all of this. They studied it for 3 years and they made a judgment call on it. So it's almost not like we're prejudging him, is it? We're judging him based on a 3-year investigation.
And that investigation will, cover ground, depending on how you look at the facts. Yeah. Ultimately, it's an investigation done internally and then it gets tested somewhere else. I mean, having gone through or worked through the system as a former union official myself, you'll get someone who makes a view and then someone else will test it. Yeah. And so that's why... And a lot of these bodies as well, they're notoriously conservative, and not in the political sense, but in the sense of they're risk averse. They'll be very careful about how they
They're on the side of caution.
Yeah.
And I know I've asked you this before as a former union official. You must be disappointed. I mean, unionism in general has been dragged down by this.
Oh, absolutely I am, because I look at the way that I approach the job myself, and I'm always very conscious in terms of the fact that you're relying upon people making willingly a contribution to the operations of a union, and I was always exceptionally mindful about that. So it does make it very hard.
In a sort of related story, Josh, how do you feel about Tony Windsor's suggestion of a possible referendum, stiffening really the expectations that we have on members of Parliament's behaviour?
Look, I will have a look at what Tony Windsor has to say in more detail, but the point is Tony Windsor's just become an echo of the Labor Party. He wasn't prepared to support a motion which Peter Beattie has said that sounds like he supports, which is that Craig Thomson shouldn't be allowed to sit in the Parliament and have his vote counted on the Labor side. So we'll see what Tony Windsor says, but Tony Windsor really is now just an echo of the Labor Party.
All right, let's talk gay marriage now, partly because Obama's come out, of course, first United States President to technically support the rights of gays to marry. And then, of course, we had this extraordinary thing, this 150 medical professionals, doctors, etc., who've written this letter to the Senate State Inquiry here in Australia saying that gay marriage poses a health risk to society. Where do you stand on it, Ed?
Well, reflecting certainly my constituency and talking a lot with people out there, they're not necessarily comfortable or ready to endorse the notion that we should change the definition of the Marriage Act at the moment. And it is difficult as a representative. You know, my personal views is I'm not opposed to the notion at all, but you do try to reflect your constituency, and people aren't ready to.
Which is what you were elected to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, what you're saying is, from your point of view, you're not personally opposed to it, but your feeling is that your constituency is opposed to it, and you represent them.
That's right.
Yeah. Josh, your situation?
Well, look, I mean, the law currently says that people in same-sex relationships can raise children, and I'm totally comfortable with that. It's a different issue when we talk about gay marriage, and I've spoken in the Parliament in support of civil unions, but not of changing the definition of marriage in our current law between a man and a woman.
All right. So basically you're in favour of them having some kind of officially recognised ceremony, but it shouldn't be marriage. OK, just one quick line from both of you. We'll stay with you, Josh. Climate change, the report is out today. Are we all doomed or not? What's your view?
Look, I don't have an issue with the science of climate change.
Just quickly.
I've said that publicly. Yep. But we're against the carbon tax. This is, Paul, this is about the carbon tax.
Well, but let's say this,
not about the
just
science
very quickly,
of
if we just hold with climate change, do you think we're all doomed? Do we have to do something, or is it all just smoke and mirrors?
Look, I don't think we're all doomed. I don't take that scenario, but I do think we do need to do something about cutting our emissions, and that's why we have a capped, targeted, measured scheme.
OK, Ed, where do you stand on climate change itself?
Absolutely, we've got to be able to take action to start, and it's also smarter to use our energy more efficiently, and I think we do need to find ways to encourage that to make it happen.
All right, Ed Husic and Josh Frydenberg, thank you again very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Josh.